All right, so in this video, I'm going to talk about something that I don't really talk about a whole lot, but I think is still important and crucial. Mental health, addiction, depression, something that affects a lot of people and a lot of creatives. A few weeks ago, my little sister hit me to a new artist named Lil Peep, a Russian kid from Long Island. He got the name Lil Peep from his mom and kind of made it his thing. 21-year-old kid, super talented, very creative, and very addicted to Xanax and other drugs. And yesterday, news broke that he died of an overdose. 21 years old. And the horrible part is not that he just died. In the middle of him dying, one of his best friends actually comes in and gets footage of him clearly in a state where he's blue and he's out of it, you know, and it made it kind of as a joke, and then put it on Instagram. And then the next video was my brother just died in my arms. And it just goes to show that, like, the era that we live in, the culture that we live in. And it's super heartbreaking, man, for me, because I understand how influential these artists are, especially with my little sister who's a senior in high school is, yo, check this kid out. They're influenced by these. And when I was young, you know, people would smoke weed. If you did coke, if you did pills, like, that was like a whole nother level. And now the drug culture has completely influenced pop culture. We have an opioid crisis in America, and not a lot of people have a lot of solutions. And it's just a super unfortunate situation. I woke up this morning, I turned on Hot 97, and there was a video of Ebro in the morning talking about how hip-hop culture is all complicit in this.
We're all complicit. Every song we play, every artist out there that thinks it's cool to just act like all you do all day is get high and pop pills.
You have songs like Mask Off.
And we're complicit, like I said before, with the records that we play. I know I pulled Future Mask Off. I was like, look, I like Future Mask Off in the club, and maybe it's good for like 10 o'clock at night, but 8 o'clock in the morning, even though they took the Molly Perks set, Represent shit, whatever they replaced in the song, I was like, people already know the original version of the song.
And tons of other songs where we're celebrating Molly, we're celebrating Percocet, we're celebrating lean. And that's one thing if you're an adult and you want to do those things. It's another thing when you have a platform and a responsibility. And so I would go a step further and say that we're not just complicit in it, that we're supporting it, and we're enabling a generation of creatives and artists to glorify addiction, to glorify being addicted to this is serious drugs, like serious drugs that most people, the majority of people who are taking these things, are using them to cope. And we're enabling people's self-destructive behavior. We're enabling people killing themselves. That's what's happening. And we saw with ASAP Yams. We saw with Pimp C. We now this kid Lil Peep. Like, how many more people are gonna have to die until we wake up and, as consumers, as fans of the music, realize that when you support this stuff, you're enabling somebody to have more access to more drugs and more money and more success. And I know that sounds radical, but I watched an interview with Lil Peep, and he said, this is a couple years ago before he really took off, and he said, yo, I'm going through withdrawals because I'm broke and I can't buy Xanax, and that was his drug of choice. And then he started popping, and if you go to his Instagram, the past couple of videos is him popping Xanax and celebrating Xanax and alluring to him overdosing. The deeper issue is this issue of mental health, depression. We are the most prosperous, technologically advanced generation ever. We have more money, we have more comfort, we have more things to do, we're more connected than we ever been, but we're more depressed, we're more medicated, we're more sedated, we're more anxious. Why? Well, first of all, we have to know that anxiety isn't a bad thing. Anxiety is your body telling you there's something wrong and you need to fix it. So stop trying to suppress your anxiety with marijuana or with whatever drug or alcohol or sex. Press into the anxiety and know that it's normal to feel pain and feel discomfort. I just did a video yesterday about discomfort and pain. But depression, the way that we can glean from others and look at social media, play the comparison game, count how many Instagram followers we have, count how many likes we have, especially as creatives. Why am I not more successful than this person, than that person? These are first world problems, guys. Like, not to minimize anybody's issues with mental health, but we're dealing with a lot of first world problems, and we're so prosperous. We all walk around with $700 phones in our pockets, and we're depressed. Why are we depressed? Maybe because we care too much. Maybe because we care too much about the wrong things. Maybe because we're too consumed with what other people are doing. You know, I was talking to Belief this week, and he says his YouTube page is taking off, and I'm so proud of him. And one of the things he said that was really interesting, he said, I don't pay attention to anybody because I don't care what other people are doing. I'm doing me. And a rule I try to have, and I fall victim of it, is I try to create before I consume. Before I look at what somebody else is doing and glean what somebody else is doing, I try to first create and add value to the world. So all you young creatives, all you young people out there, let this be a warning sign to you guys, man. Slow down with the shenanigans. Slow down with the stupidity. You're playing with your life, and your brain isn't even developed enough to understand the long-term consequences. So we're in an era where addiction is cool. It's okay to be a junkie. Depression is cool. We're glamorizing depression now. Anxiety needs to be kept at a minimal level, so we're taking drugs and weed and whatever we can to minimize our anxiety, which is actually there to help you. You're physiologically wired so that you feel things when you're supposed to feel things. And then we're depressed because we're playing so many comparisons. I've read this book. It's called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F***. And it's one of the best books I've read. I encourage you guys to check it out. He really does a great job on dealing with some of these things, and I'll link it in the description below. I want to take a moment. My buddy Daniel is one of my close friends, has dealt with these things in a really serious way, and I want to glean some of his insight and how he's able to overcome depression, suicidal thoughts. Briefly, your journey, rock bottom, suicidal, and by the grace of God, turned all the way around. You're a youth pastor now. Speaker, communicator, inspiration to hundreds of kids, me personally, family man. What happened?
Yeah, man. So again, I think that the culture that I grew up in is really similar to the culture that we're seeing today. I think that we live in a culture that has completely normalized all of this stuff. We are seeing literally right now, this is the first time in the United States history that the leading cause of death in adults is drug overdose, more than car accidents. And that seems really insignificant, but it's massively powerful because we've been sold a bill of goods. We've been sold a lie that you can self-medicate your way through your pain and your issue. And we literally have created a society of young people that don't believe they have to address any of the actual core issues of what they're dealing with. And they can just put temporary band-aid after temporary band-aid after temporary band-aid on top of them, and they never actually get to the core of what's wrong with them. And same thing with me, man. I had stuff that happened to me as a kid. I had issues of life that had happened, and every example I'd ever been given was, man, there's no need to deal with it. Just medicate your way through things. And so I started just partying the way that everybody else did, and I thought I was normal, but all of a sudden I finally felt peace and a sense of joy that a substance gave me for a temporary amount of time. And I was like, man, if I can just have that feeling all of the time, life will be good and all my issues will go away. And so that genuinely was my objective. I wasn't trying to do drugs because I wanted to be a degenerate, but it was the only thing that actually let me experience some type of momentary satisfaction and joy. And so that's what led me down a path where all of a sudden the drugs that I was doing to give me joy and hope actually then took control of my life, and I no longer had the ability to control them, and everything switches and it becomes a completely different game changer. And so I got to a spot where I knew I wanted to stop doing drugs, but I physically could not stop doing them. And so my only viable out was to kill myself. That I was like, man, I have to just end my life. And I felt like because of a byproduct of all of the actions that it takes to keep up the lifestyle of a drug addict, I had done things that had disvalued me and disqualified me from being, forget being used by God, but being seen of any significance by anybody for the rest of my life. And so I stood in the mirror and put a gun to my head and figured out how to shoot myself. And my biggest fear was that I was gonna miss somehow and end up being a vegetable and just be a derelict for the rest of my life, because every decision I had made up to that point seemed like it left me in a spot of just being a complete derelict. And I prayed this prayer of absolute desperation, and I said, God, I don't know if you're real, but if you're real, I need you. And all of a sudden I was overwhelmed with this thing that I have come to understand as like the presence of God, the peace of God. And And I think the biggest thing, man, the reason I've given my life to reaching this next generation is because I believe we've been sold a bill of goods. Like, I genuinely believe that we have been convinced of a lie, that whether you call it the enemy, call it spiritual, call it just the natural evolution of humanity, we've been sold a bill of goods. You cannot self-medicate your way to happiness. You cannot continue to put Band-Aid after Band-Aid after Band-Aid after Band-Aid on these deep, deep issues, because the truth is, man, life is going to come at you, and the truth is stuff has happened to a lot of us, and we have to understand that this medication is not working. I think the reason that we are seeing addiction overdose deaths happening at an astronomically high rate is because now the drug dealers are doctors. They're people in white coats that have really high degrees, and so it's easy for us to go, yeah, I believe what they're saying, and I'm just going to keep taking what they're doing. Again, not to get over spiritual, but you and I have a hole inside of our hearts that we can't fill with stuff. We can't fill with things. We can't fill ultimately with substances. And the hard part is we have a culture that is glorifying it and making it seem like it's all fun and easy, and the pain is temporary and it'll all make sense eventually, and it's not working. It is not happening. We are seeing addiction at rates that are the craziest we've ever seen, and it's affecting younger and younger and younger and younger generations. And I think we have to understand something is broken, something is not working. We have to realize that, man, there is a healing that I believe that only God can do, that we have to start to look and go, man, this isn't working. And it took me getting to a spot where I had tried everything and genuinely realized that this isn't working, that there has to be something else. And so my prayer for everybody watching this is that you wouldn't have to get to a rock bottom to start to look and go, man, is there another option? Because there is. And I believe that the idea of a rock bottom is a complete delusion. That I don't think you have to hit Skid Row. I don't think you have to be in a mirror with a gun to your head to realize that you need help. And my encouragement to anybody watching this that's struggling with addiction is ask for help. My goal is for people to find healing.
And I think you found healing, obviously, in a relationship with Jesus. You found healing in community, and you've also used and have had therapists, counseling, right? These things are so taboo. Right?
There's this notion in church that if you prayed and God doesn't completely heal you and transform you right on the spot, that somehow you're not spiritual enough. And I'm telling you that I was in counseling every week for a year to walk through some really traumatic stuff that happened to me as a kid. And I can't encourage people enough, find a mental health professional to help you walk through stuff. I think part of what we need to understand as a culture is we have to start to tell doctors what we need. And when I say find a mental health practitioner, don't find somebody that's just going to walk in and doesn't care and is just going to write you a prescription and go, oh, you just need an antidepressant. Find somebody that's going to care. Find somebody that can help you walk through this stuff. When I look back over the lady that I met with, man, she systematically walked me through a process of healing over the process of an entire year, and my life was absolutely transformed and changed forever because of what she did and what God did. I think that they happen together, so don't discredit one or the other. Some
very, very tangible, practical things. If you're struggling with depression, man, unplug, get off social media for a bit, go outside, go be physically active, go to the gym, go play some sports, like get around your family, people that care, have healthy dialogue, you know, and if you're really in that place, man, pray that prayer that Daniel prayed. Like, God, if you're real, you know, and you're not sure where you fall with Jesus and everything, like, pray that prayer. I've prayed it, you know, it has changed everything. Daniel's prayed it. But this is an issue that I think affects so many people, and whether you're a person of faith or not, I don't want you guys being susceptible to these things, because it's just taking out too many young people. Let us know what you guys think, man. Comment section below. Some of you guys needed this, and some of you guys have friends that need this, so share it. Make sure you're following Daniel M. Golding on Instagram. And if you're in the North County area, check him out. Wednesday night high school, Thursday nights young adults. Peace.
I'm falling sideways. I guess it's all I ever do. Oh, it's a problem with you. I'm falling sideways. I guess it's all I ever do. Sipping whiskey from a bottle I don't need though. Out here running around the court like I just missed a free throw. And I ain't got no money cause I put it in the music. So she wants something fancy, have to tell her I can't do it. And I never had an issue doing that. I think I'd rather take a risk and then no matter fact. My friends were smoking weed while I was writing on my tracks. No matter where they go, they know I always call them back. I wonder if they get the point.